by all accounts, this looks at this point in the race, if you give any credence to that, as Marco Rubio's race to lose today, 11 days out.
Well, the reality is the majority of Floridians, even in those polls, don't want him. And I think that's important to remember. That's why it's important to reemphasize the point that I'm the only candidate who can both win in November and take the right common sense message to Washington on behalf of my fellow Floridians as an independent. I know that's what they want. I know they want somebody who respects women's rights. I know they want somebody who will fight for our senior citizens. And I know they want somebody who understands the importance of education and public education as I do.
Governor, the Florida Senate Ethics Committee is poised to pass new rules and regulations forbidding a candidate to do what you did this spring. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand that as governor, I understand this culture of corruption that unfortunately exists in South Florida. You know, I've got an opponent. There's a great story today in the Miami Herald that talks about his financial problems. I've had to remove almost 45 individuals, many of them unfortunately in South Florida, as your governor, to fight for integrity, to make sure that the people have public officials that they can believe in and can trust, like the good man I'm about to swear in as a judge today. That's what really matters to people.
But that report specifically speaks to candidates switching parties in the middle of a campaign. What do you say to them?
Well, I think people have the right in America to do what they believe is right in their heart. And running as an independent is what I know is right for Florida and for America. People are tired of the party gridlock. They're tired of the finger pointing in Washington, D.C. You know, if they elect either of my opponents, they're going to be there for the next 6 years as part of that party that isn't doing anything for the people. I want to run and represent the people of Florida. They want to represent the parties.
Governor, with respect to Social Security, you do say that Marco's position is that he would tinker with senior citizens' benefits, where it's clear his position is that he doesn't want to impact benefits now, and he wants to make changes possibly for people who are going to retire 20, 30, and 40 years down the road. How is it you can attack him now saying senior citizens when there will be no impact on senior citizens?
Because Marco Rubio says, and he says it in his own words, you can go to CharlieCrist.com and see it. You know, it was on a debate in Fox, on Fox Television. And he said that all these things need to be on the table. You know, privatization of Social Security, what is that for? Send it to his Wall Street buddies that raised him all the money for his campaign? That's not right. We can't risk and gamble the future of our seniors and those that would participate in Social Security, as Marco Rubio wants to do. The other thing he talks about, in addition to that, is raising the age of eligibility. There are protests all over the world about that happening right now. And that's what he wants to put on the table, to put senior citizens at risk and those in the future who would participate in Social Security. It's the one program that's working in Washington. And typical of Washington-type politicians like Marco, they want to attack it. And they want to balance our budget on the back of senior citizens. That's not right. It's not Florida's values.
Marco Rubio says you're running a dirty campaign because you have now become a desperate candidate. What do you say to that?
I'm telling the truth about Marco Rubio's record, and he doesn't like it. And I'll quote President Truman. You know, he used to say that, you know, I'm telling the truth, and they think it's hell. Well, I'm going to keep giving them hell, and they're going to think it's hell, but it's just the truth.
So
the people have a right to know before the election.
The next 11 days, what are your concerns? I mean, Marco has a lot more in his war chest than both you and Kendrick meet. What are your concerns, your biggest concerns in the process and strategy of this campaign in the next 11 days?
Well, my greatest concern is for the people of Florida and making sure that they have a U.S. senator who wants to fight for them first and foremost and not for the political parties.
And
I know they're frustrated.
Days, well, how does that play out in detail in the next 11 days?
Well, I think the way you do it is you continue to tell people that that's what's in my heart, and that's what I want to do for them. I want to make sure they have somebody who goes to Washington that's just not going to become part of the party struggle up there. You know, if they think Washington is working well, they ought to vote for one of my opponents, because they'll get 6 more years of the same gridlock, arguing, bickering, and no meaningful progress for the people of Florida or America.
Governor, what about the article today in the Miami Herald about Rubio's finances? Do you have any comment about that?
Yeah, well, I think it shows a pattern and practice of somebody who is fast and loose with the truth. It reported that there were $34,000 that he failed to report. I think that's why he's currently under a federal investigation, according to news accounts, by the IRS and the FBI. These are things that people deserve to know. You know, I'm not running a campaign that's inappropriate. I'm running a campaign that's honest. And the people deserve the truth. And I care about my Floridians. And I want them to know what the facts are before they go to the polls and vote or early vote.
Governor,
a lot of voters feel alienated by you because you switched parties. What can you tell the voters who are going to vote for you that you will not alienate them moving forward?
But I'm the same guy I've always been. I'm a fiscal conservative and a social moderate. You know, I'm a guy who believes in being frugal with the taxpayers' dollars. I never had a Republican Party credit card, unlike Marco Rubio, ran up hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm just not like that. You know, I'm a very thrifty guy, but I'm also a social moderate. I don't want to impose my will, even though I'm personally pro-life, on the women of Florida. Marco Rubio wants to literally overturn Roe versus Wade. You know, if they want somebody who respects them, who respects the value of a dollar, and will fight hard for them every single day as a good public servant who understands that public service is to be honored, rather than self-service like Marco Rubio, they ought to vote for Charlie Crist, and they won't be let down. I won't let them down.
Governor, as a former Republican, how do you fight the Republican momentum going into this election with 11 days to go?
By appealing to common sense Republicans, Democrats, and independents to say, come with me. This is difficult and this is hard to run as an independent. But if you want somebody who will make a difference in Washington, reset the tone, do what I've done as governor, reach across the aisle to have common sense solutions for our people. We're at the highest graduation rate in the history of Florida right now. We are at a low in crime in Florida, almost a 40-year low right now. You know, I know the economy is challenging, and we're continuing to try to do everything we can to get it moving forward. And I've done common sense practical things to do just that. Then they ought to vote for Charlie Crist.
Going into
Your reports say you're out of money and that you're behind in the polls. How can you give your voters confidence that you can still win this race?
We can win the race because we tell the truth. And we talk to people straight, and we talk to them about the fact that, you know, it's important to communicate a message of clarity about being a fiscal conservative, a social moderate, and we've got plenty of funds to run those ads through the finish line.
How important
We already made the buy.
How important are the debates coming up in the next week, and do you anticipate being much more aggressive than I think you have been in the past couple of debates?
I'll be the same way. You know, just tell the truth. Let the people know what I want to do if I get elected and have the honor of serving in the U.S. Senate, and that is to be a common sense, practical, pragmatic individual who will be moderate and of good tone, and that they can be proud of in the Senate, as I hope they have been as my service as their governor.
And lastly, sir, Connie Mack has come out and been critical of you being critical of Marco's position on Social Security and the way you're reacting and responding to it. There's your mentor criticizing you. What are your thoughts there?
Every Floridian and every American has the right to express their opinion, and so does he.
Yeah, thanks for
Governor, although it's wrong. Good seeing you, sir. Thanks for coming out. Good to see you.